Howdy, Mr. Hominoid. Regarding Theo Hayez. Now, if you follow my channel because of Theo Hayez, I stated approximately 9 months ago when I was doing the water current and everything else, and I said right next to the rocks, the water goes out. And the media totally and utterly ran on the theory that Theo was taken by somebody. Now, I made that video up there, right there where I'm now looking at here at Tallo's Beach, and I said he went out there in the current. Now, they've now come out there and they've got a local surfing lady who's also an oceanographer. Now, this is a year and a bit after whatever her name is on this TV show, has now turned around and come around there with my same event. Now, Theo has walked up along here, gone up this track up here, come down here, and then they've asked, did he try to climb the rocks? And she said, well, if he's fallen into that water there, now, see there's two rocks sticking out there from the side of the headland in front of the water? That's low tide. I'll try and hold that a bit steadier. Those two rocks right there, right? When I was there, the water was coming around the rocks. See where the waves are now? They're way back here. Sorry. So, now, they're now saying he's got washed out here in the big main south current, which is the same current I talked about in my video down there on my channel, where the picture of the van is parked there on the heading, on the front of the video. It's got a back of a backpacker's van. And then I walked back down there to that car park just there, which you can see there's a car park, in the bottom left of the screen. And I was absolutely buggered. Now, I'm just going to bring that in. What I said, he's gone in for a swim there, and he's gone out and he's got sucked out. And that's exactly what I said. And now they're saying the same thing. But they're saying, the silly media lady said, oh, did he fall off the side of the cliff? And then the oceanographer didn't quite get the words right. She said, oh, yeah, but he would have had to been not off the cliff, he wouldn't have landed in the water. He would have had to been on the rocks next to the water because you wouldn't bounce. I mean, if you roll down a hill, you stop. You don't roll up over a rock in front of you because that acts as a brake, if you know what I'm trying to say. So let's just have a little pause here. I'll come up to the next bit. Now, that's exactly what I was talking about. So if I zoom that back out a bit, now you'll see that big current that comes down the east coast of Australia, that big dark line. See it? And that arrow is pointing right to where Theo went in. And there's the three arrows where he would have went out. Can you see what I mean? The guy never had a chance. And I was right when I said the current on that particular night in 2019 was up close against the rocks. I was right, because that's what my research showed, because she found the same research as I did. So let's go back and I'll find that and I'll play it.
Expert in drift analysis agreed to examine the conditions and the currents on the night Theo disappeared. If he's fallen off the headland, do you believe he's landed in the water?
Well, it's hard to see how he would have landed in the water, given that the headland's not particularly steep, but I can just say that if he did land in the water, there is a high probability that he did get swept out to sea.
See, he would have had to go all over those rocks.
Where would he have had to fall to be washed into the ocean?
I'd say between 1 and 2 metres above the waterline, so quite close to the water.
That's my whole point exactly. If he fell off the rocks then he would fall down into the water. And that's why, see, this news reporter here, she's making out he climbed up the rock face. But like you just seen, let's back it up a bit.
Given that the headland's not.
There it is there. Have a look.
If he's fallen off the headland, do you believe he's landed in the water?
How could he fall off the
Well, it's hard
headland?
to see how he would have landed in the water, given that the headland's not particularly steep. But I can just say that if he did land in the water, there is a high probability that he.
See,
did
look,
get swept
right
out
there.
to
He
sea.
would have got caught on that rock face.
Where would he have had to fall to be washed into the ocean?
He walked
I'd say
in there.
Between 1 and 2.
I worked it out that that's where he walked in, right there. In between them two there. And in that Blue Arrow video, and when I stood there in my video, you actually see the water actually being sucked out into the ocean. See? This lady is being very careful what she says because it could ruin her career. You've got to remember this lady, she's under a lot of pressure. If she says something on the media and it comes back to bite her in the ass, she could lose her job as an oceanographer. Because they say, oh, you were wrong. Whereas her, she's a multi-millionaire. Yeah, she's a multi-millionaire reporter. She's married to a very wealthy media mogul. So she doesn't give a rat's razoo about this lady's career. This is the things you've got to learn to see through these media reports, is that the lady on the left has got to be careful what she says. She probably still has a mortgage on a house. This one has multi-millions of dollars. I mean, look at her clothing. Now look at her clothing. Can you see the point I'm trying to make? She's filthy rich. So she is going to try and say something to lead her to what she said. But she did say, no, he had to be close. Let's just back up a fraction.
The water, there is a high probability that he did get swept out to sea. Yeah.
Here it comes.
Where would he have had to fall to be washed into the ocean?
I'd say between 1 and 2 meters above the waterline, so quite close to the water.
Right up close to the water. Now, why would he be walking around there? I'll just find it and I'll show you.
Photographer, expert in drift analysis, agreed
See the
to
current?
examine
Look
the
at it.
conditions and the currents on the night.
Right, so if he climbed up there, he went a long fall, wouldn't he? So he wouldn't have reached the water. Now, if he fell off that rock face, you'd roll down to there and land on the track, because that there, dead center of the screen, is the track. So how did his body roll up and over those rocks and then fall down over there into the water? It's physically impossible. Have a look. That's a lip in the rock. There's no way in the world he would have fell off the rock face. He's gone in the water. He's either fell in there sitting on the rock, but then I'll show you this other part of the story that they said, which they've now changed the position. Listen to the words. They have changed the position of his GPS tracker on his mobile phone. I'll go back to that. Now, why would Theo try to climb up a rock face like that? I'll just flash the camera. Look how steep that is. There is no physical way he could climb up there in the dark. And that's from the top of the lighthouse, looking down. It's a vertical drop. So it just does not make any sort of sense. It's what people don't get. It is a vertical drop. Now, I'm using a bit of their footage. Let's have a look. I'll come back to you.
Theo veers off the beach into a clearing in the bushland. According to former detective Gary Jubilan, this is yet another...
It's how dark it is.
When you're there at night, you don't know. You don't see this little offshoot here, do you?
No.
To be able to see the place, we visit in daylight.
There's the
It's
rocks
another
over there where he
spot for beach
disappeared.
parties, which Gary believes could have been held
Right
here
behind
or
Gary
stored
Jubilant.
here.
This clearing area, as I understand, is an area where people gather, have parties, and as you can see, it's a perfect area.
But then the GPS data tells us Theo went further, up into the bush where he remained for 5 minutes.
He's gone up that incline there, which is rather steep, and you can imagine being here at night. I've had a look up there, and there's thick bush like lantana. You can't get through it.
Local police believe
Now, lantana is a very prickly bush. You cannot just walk through lantana. You come out here from England, it's a pest, and you just can't get through it. And it's just a little cul-de-sac in the sand where they are up on the side. And then it's a sheer rock face and lantana. So there's no way in the world he's gone out there through here.
lost and desperate. It's clear he's not distressed. There's no indication of being lost or scared. No cry for help. He even starts to watch a favourite Belgian comedy show on YouTube. You know, we have the last words of Theo Hayez. The red is Theo
Yeah.
at Cozy Corner. This is what he's saying and doing at this point.
What jumps out to me, it's almost like he's filling in some time. He's responding to old messages. He had a look on YouTube. Like he's got time to kill.
At 1:02 a.m, Theo was calmly sending what would be his final text message via WhatsApp to fellow backpacker and friend.
See those imposing, it looks like a mountain from here. It just does not add up.
For Theo to take such a risky course would have him ignore the darkness and clear directions to turn around and walk back down the beach to get home. If we actually did look at the phone right now,
Yeah.
what does the map tell him?
Have a look. 56 minutes to walk.
Proceed to Cozy Corner Trail.
So it's saying go back there.
Go back. Yeah.
But it's not saying go over Cape Byron.
No, definitely not.
You can't see anything out here. What happened to the poor kid?
It makes no sense. He's come down here on his own. If he was having an episode or he was tripping on drugs, perhaps acting irrationally. But we come back to the text messages. He's not being irrational. He's controlled, he's considered in his responses and the way he's dealing with things. So he's down here with someone and something's happened.
Now, if you want to watch this episode of this video, which is there, special investigation, what really happened in their eyes, missing backpacker Theo Hayez, 60 Minutes Australia, October 16, 2022. So now this is 8 months or 6 months after I went up there, and I said about him going out there in the current. Now they're finally saying he went out there in the current. If you go and watch their previous videos, they all said he got abducted, which is absolutely wrong.
It just does not add up.
Gary is convinced the young Belgian
Wait a minute,
backpacker...
I just missed that little bit. Gary Jubilant says, what is an 18-year-old kid doing down here on his own? I'll tell you exactly what he was doing. He was enjoying the moment like everybody else does when they go down to Byron Bay, and that's even what I did when I was 18.
accidentally fell into the sea and was swept away. Former detective Gary Jubilant believes that theory is flawed.
Look around here. What is an 18-year-old kid doing down here on his own? It just does not add up.
Gary is convinced the young Belgian backpacker was led down here by someone else. So if Theo did come down here with someone and yet no one has come forward, are you suggesting foul play? Could it be an accident?
It could still be an accident. It could be something happened that he ran away from the people and an accident. So you can't discount anything.
Gary also finds it difficult to accept that if Theo did in fact fall while trying to climb this headland, that he'd land in the water or close enough to be swept away.
Right, so Gary Jubilant, he's also agreed with me. You wouldn't have fell off the headland and landed in the water because you would have had to bounce over those rocks, right? The first rocks to the right of the path. You go on the left-hand side of the path is a steep cliff. Then you've got the path. Then to the right of the path, you've got an upgrade of rocks. Then it goes down the embankment, down onto these other rocks into the ocean. So how the hell did he get in there if you come up there? That's like what Gary Jubler just said. How would he get into the water? I still reckon he was sitting on the sand, but there's one point there they said he was sitting on that rock right there, which is not what I seen on the last episode of their show when they showed the GPS coordinates. They now say, without showing the GPS, he sat on the rock. They're saying he sat on the rock without showing the GPS coordinates. But on the previous show, they did show the GPS coordinates, which I did correct myself and said, no, it was further down the beach. He was sitting on the sand. Then they say he's sitting on the rocks. No, he wasn't. I'll find it. Right, I found what I was looking for. Now, all the yellow is going to look confusing, so I'll walk you through it. Theo walks out here from the Cheeky Monkey. He walked down this way to the Cheeky Monkey. I stood there. I pointed the people over there at that building. And then I drove down here. Went down here. This is where the homeless people were, Kent City. And then the GPS was out. It shows him crossing the middle of the park, which is right. That's a footpath in my video. But then it shows him walking up this street here. Now, you physically can't get through there. And that's why this guy said in the last episode the GPS was out. He's actually walked across the sports field. Right? He's actually come across down lower. This is saying he come back. He didn't. He come across the park and he's come up this side street, up here, down around up here, and then I parked my car there because I can't drive down here through the bush, right? And then Theo's walked up here along there to the beach. I've driven my car back up around this way. I parked here in this car park, exactly right there, to be very precise, if you really want to know. And then I walked out onto there, and I walked out up here. Now, if you look at the whole GPS track, that's water there, but they're showing it goes around the headland, and there's the headland here, right? There's to the headland. Well, that's totally different. Oh, sorry, I'm reading it backwards. Sorry, I've got my head right. That's where I parked the car. I've driven back here to this car park. That's a bushwalking trail. And then he's walked along here. Sorry, I wasn't standing up close enough there to the screen so I could see it. Now, he's walked up here. And he's walked into here where they were talking about all the sand dunes. And he's walked out here. Now, they're not showing where, on this time, the phone actually went round the corner. But on the previous episode, 12 months ago, 18 months ago, they showed that the phone went round there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But they're not showing that. And also they're showing it here, that the phone was here on the sand, and the water level is down here. But you can't see that because it's a screen that's reflecting. But just going to have to believe me on it. So that's what I mean. So there's Gary Jublin. Now let's go into him a little bit. Now, he was a former policeman involved in the missing child, and he illegally recorded a so-called suspect, and he got dismissed from the police force. He got the sack, and now he's being sued by the bloke who he accused of taking the child, who did not take the child. And that guy has lost his home, he's lost his business, he's lost his friends, all because of him doing a corrupt thing, using an illegal recording. And he had one mindset. Now, this is a key point. He had one mindset in that police case. he was fixed on one guy, on a kid, right? Now, this is similar because that kid was a little baby toddler, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, whatever. But he had a mindset, he didn't want to hear anything else. Now, in this video, he talks about, no, he couldn't have rolled down the hill and then rolled up over the rocks and then fell in, right? So there's no way in the world you're going to roll down a hill and be unconscious and then roll up a hill and then fall into the ocean, right? And using the picture of the rocks as illustration. Right, it was over here, right? But you can't see it, it's too small. Right, now, this lady, news reporter, look at her clothes, she's worth millions of dollars. Yes, she's a multi-millionaire. So, she's in there for the story. She's a blood, right? She's a vampire for the news story. And then you've got a policeman, former policeman, got charged and sacked for corruption, now sucking off her purse strings, pardon the French, on Channel 9 to get a job because nobody else will give him a job. So now he's a consultant for Channel 9 on their crime stories. You see what I mean? So he can't even get a decent job because nobody in the world wants to employ him because he's got no trade skills. He was a head detective, right, in Child Protection Unit. And nobody would ever would want to employ him because of what he did to this one family and ruined a whole family. And that was public news item was done about it. And he just put his head down and he didn't want to answer. He couldn't even say sorry to the guy whose life he destroyed. So before you go giving this bloke here, oh, he's a former cop. No, he's just a guy. He's not a genius. He doesn't psychic ball or clairvoyant. And he can't go back into the past. He can't teleport. He's just a bloke who got busted and cost the family their life. So before you read too much into him, he's speculating and she's speculating. She's speculating because it's her job, and he's speculating because he wants to get money out of Channel 9. Right, I go in facts and just get me on that. So I'm going off this fact, and later on it went around there in a previous. Now you go and look it up. Theo Hayez, same show with her, with Ken Gamble, the private detective. And you compare the difference of this part here in the satellite tracking, what they show. This is totally different. She has not put it in. She did not show where they clearly showed ... Here, they made it as one long straight line. There's a total difference. And that is the big vital point, is that point right there, which they blur so you can't see, for them to make good news coverage. I think he's gone up there, met people, having a barbecue, come down here, he sat on the sand. They openly said he watched his favourite Belgium comedy show, turned his phone off at 1:05 in the morning. The next day, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the phone goes walking around here. Now, if the phone goes walking, doesn't mean he had it. And at 1:35 a.m., 30 minutes later, the tide turned from going out to tide coming in, which means when the waves come in here, they go out there. The water comes in here like that, and then it goes up there and comes out the side of the rock. And that's exactly where he went in. And he got swept out here into this big main trough current, which is down here. And that's where he went. And then somebody's come along, found his phone, carried it around there, said, oh, I can't access it. It's got a pin lock on it, and just threw it into the ocean. Because I found out it had the Chinese secret spyware in it. And that's back in my other stories. And it's even in her previous story 18 months ago. So you have to go back and look for it. You know, that's it there for me, Mr. Hominoid. I think it's still a simple case. Left his phone on the beach, went in, not familiar with the Australian Ocean. He's from Belgium, got washed out, somebody's come along, picked up his clothes next morning and left the phone there, or somebody else has come along, picked up his phone and his clothes, walked around the headland, and then threw the phone away, kept the clothes, and then they walked around here back onto this trail over here, and then from there they can walk out. And of course they're not going to say nothing, because they might have been other backpackers, they might have been transients, they might have been homeless, they might have been drug addicts. They've already said there was drug addicts camping down here. All these drug addicts all go down here. This is where they all go. And they all hang around down around here. And they hang around right up, even up over here on the other beaches. It's just Byron Bay. So, but you can't blame a drug addict because you didn't see it. You weren't there, I wasn't there. So I hope I confused you some more. But it's interesting. Anyway, I'm going to watch the story. It's on 60 Minutes Australia. That's it there. Get in and have a look. And see how we go anyway. Alright, from me, Mr. Hominoid. See you later. I just wish I could snap my fingers and bring the poor Theo back home, but as one lady said in this story, he could have got washed up to Brisbane. Now, another point was a lady fell off the rocks in Sydney and her shoe floated up onto a beach with her foot in it, in a floating shoe, 400 kilometres south of Sydney. Yes, her shoe and her foot floated up on a beach 400 kilometres south of Sydney after she disappeared in Sydney. And that's a lady that stole and embezzled billions of dollars from people at Vaucluse, Dover Heights. So, a foot could travel around there. Any part of Theo's body could have washed around there. And that's even what the oceanographer said. He could have went up that way as far up as Brisbane City and got all the way this way as far down as Sydney. Because that's only 600 kilometres. So, his body would be in the ocean, sorry to say. Anyway, from me, Mr. Hominoid, see you later.